This week, we're talking about the Pokemon Presents and an old game coming to new systems. This is the Good Game, Bad Game podcast.
This is a song I wrote about the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. Good Game, Bad Game podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, and with me is a man who did his best impersonation of me and bought a PSP Go. It's my co-host, Mike. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing all right. And I feel like mine had a lot more flavor than yours did.
Yours definitely had a lot more flavor. I also should, I guess, I should also add the caveat of this is only impressive, weird, any other words for buying an old system in 2023, simply because it is 2023 and you purchased a PSP Go. That's the only reason why it's noteworthy.
I have been searching for one for years. One that's a reasonable price.
Right.
So I'm happy. It's really for the novelty. Am I going to put games on it? Yes.
Mhm.
Am I going to struggle with it being the Japanese version? Probably.
Also, I'm very curious because I feel like we're both, dear listener, in case you didn't know, Mike and I are both 6'3", 6'4" freaks. And with that, tall people typically have larger hands. Is it just like so fucking small in your hands?
It's awful. It's so bad.
Like, I need Justine to like send me a picture of it, like from like your POV, but I need both of your hands in the picture with the PSP Go. Like I have to see it.
Justine's hands might not even fit on it. She's got some long fingers.
That was like my biggest takeaway when I got mine was just like playing games on this is gonna be something.
Yeah, you're gonna hear it kick on in a second, I think, just because I need to put my hands on it. But that was my first thought. When I first had it in my hands, like I almost immediately got cramps. So like for me to play this, for me, you know how like your natural intuition is to like put the sides like under your like in your palm under like where your index finger joint is,
Mm-hmm.
and like have your back fingers on. Yeah, that doesn't work for me. I literally to hold this thing, my three fingers that aren't my index finger are like on the rubber pads on the back.
Mm-hmm.
Like my fingertips are on them.
Mm-hmm.
And then my thumbs can stretch to the face buttons.
Mm-hmm.
And then my index fingers can like then just hit like the rounded edge of the L and the R button. I don't even. I look like the Pope holding up whatever he was holding up in that meme.
Yes, literally.
It's yeah. I think it's doable, maybe. It's gonna take a lot of hand gymnastics, but yeah, it's kind of surreal. I don't know if you remember, but I had the PSP 1000,
Mm-hmm.
and that died. And so for my birthday that year, my parents, at least to some, I think they gave me money towards a new PSP. I don't think they full on replaced it.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, the PSP Go had just come out, and I really wanted it just because it was cool. But I had such a collection of UMDs, and at the time, they were doing some program like with GameStop that you could take your games in and get a digital code for them.
Wow.
But stupid me had to have the physical disc. And so I ended up getting a PSP 3000, except like the same time Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker came out.
Mm-hmm.
And it came out with like a special edition green PSP. So I got that instead.
Which
And
I
then
think, do you still have that, I'm assuming?
I do. That was
Yeah.
the one. So the battery actually just exploded in that one this week. So
Yes.
not only did I get a PSP Go, I got a new battery for my old PSP, which on eBay there's someone selling them, and they say they're OEM. They're very convincing, but they're like $12.
Yeah.
They are not OEM, uh, and they're very good ripoffs. They work.
Hmm.
They don't stay in the PSP very well. Like
Mm.
if the back door is off of it, and the back panel doesn't quite fit perfectly. Like there's one edge that's a little too big. It's not a big deal at all.
Yeah.
But, just your public service announcement that if anybody's selling OEM batteries for less than like probably $80, they're probably not real.
Yeah.
But yeah, still have that one. Um, I actually went. This was a couple of years ago now, but went on like a PSP physical disc buying spree. Like when I started talking about the PSP store shutting down.
Hmm.
So I got a decent collection of that, but I don't have everything. Um, which I never will. But
Never say never.
well, yeah, there are means to get around that with the PSP Go, I suppose. Um, but yeah, so I got the PSP 3000, and then years later, I went to a GameStop and they had the PSP Go used for like $50. And I literally like had it in my hand and said, I don't need to pay $50 for this.
Yeah.
That was like literally that was the dip in PSP Goes.
Yes.
Because like months later they were like all over $100 again. And uh, now you're lucky. I mean, I think I'm lucky to get it at the price that I got it at.
Yeah. I from what I can tell, I would agree. I think we both got it for roughly the same. And everything, I mean, the reason I did it was because everything I was like researching and looking at told me that it was a fairly good deal. So
Yeah. Um, I figured I'd pick it up, and if I, you know, do the classic thing of, oh my god, I've wanted this my entire life, and then you get it, and you're just like,
cool.
get cool. I've seen it. I don't really need this. I figure I could turn around and sell it for at least some degree of a profit. I'll play around with it for a little bit before I make that decision. But
I mean, mine mostly
this
just
is
sits on
literally,
display.
huh?
Mine mostly just sits on display. So
Yeah, yeah. I'll put games on it. Honestly, I might travel with it. We'll see.
yeah, no, right? Like,
Um,
isn't that like great to like be like, wow, I actually like because it's like it's new to you, right? Like it's not obviously new, but like it's new to you, and so it's got this like honeymoon phase of like, nah, I'm really gonna play around with it and see what happens.
Yeah, and I don't have to like. I'm less concerned about traveling with this than I am with like my Vita or my PSP.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know that I've ever traveled with this PSP other than like when I had first gotten it, and it was like the only console I had.
Hmm.
Um, but it's still in really good shape. So like, if I were just like on a PSP kick, I wouldn't really want to take it anywhere, just in case. But like, this has got I mean, honestly, the one I got's in really good condition. Like you and I talked about before the show, the R button was broken on it, but that was a pretty easy fix. But there's like a good like scuff on it on that side.
Hmm.
So like it's already kind of been through the ringer, so I don't really feel bad about throwing it in my pocket, taking it somewhere.
Hear ya. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, fun stuff.
The as somebody who has been waiting in the secondhand games market, it's a insane place to be. But I'm very happy that you were able to find your like holy grail, the thing that you've been attempting to get.
It's
Um,
literally been so what the PSP Go came out in 2009. So it's been 14 years,
it's crazy. That is
and I
crazy.
have been like chasing it since.
Yeah.
It's funny. Last week or 2 weeks ago, they do like a big stretch of yard sales in my area. Like it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's 50 miles. And my brother came up. and he actually went around to some of the yard sales, and that's just not something. I know if I go to yard sales, I'm going to buy shit,
Right.
and if I don't have something specific in mind, I'm not going to go look. So he said he was going out, and
I should have
he asked me
given
if
you
there's
a
anything.
list.
Yeah, I don't know how much you'll find because I've noticed in the 2 years, well, 1 year that I've lived here, the two like yard sales, 'cause it's the same weekend every month.
Right.
Everyone is looking for like video games and stuff.
Of course.
So I feel like it's you got to get out early and go, which is easy enough. But um, also a weird balance because everyone can set up kind of whenever they want.
Hmm.
But um, yeah, he was like, "Oh, are you looking for anything?" I was like, "The only thing that I would say, like, I maybe have like $150 budget on, and I would not be happy if I bought it for $150. I just kind of know that's the range I'm looking at.
Hmm.
It's like if anybody has a PSP Go, get it." So that was just like 2 weeks ago, and then I happened to find one online for way less than $150, and yeah.
Bing, bang, boom. Love it.
So anyway, yeah, all good.
Uh,
So I might have some PSP games on my what I've been playing recently list.
I love it. I can't wait. Well, with that, what have you been playing?
So relatively boring week for me. I can't remember. I know I had said last week I started playing Days Gone.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
I genuinely don't think I've played it since last week.
Okay.
I thought about it a bunch of times, but never like just could never pull the trigger on it. Um, so I don't think I played that. Played a bit of Madden. Played some Forza.
Nice.
Trying to rip through Forza Horizon 5 now, and not be as much of a perfectionist. Like I would literally have a stroke if I didn't come in first, and I'd have to keep doing a race until I came
Hmm.
in first. Not doing that anymore. As long as I come in like first, second, third, I'm happy.
Hmm.
As long as I win, play shut, whatever. And so play a little bit of that, trying to kind of just get that done. But they keep putting content out for it, and it's like, holy crap!
Yeah.
How are you supposed to finish this game?
What a
Um,
great problem to have, I guess, right?
yeah, it is. I wish I were caught up with it because it'd be so cool. And there are things like you just log on, and I like this, and I also hate it because there are times where you log on and it just like puts you into a new story like race. Um, because there's a lot of times I don't play Forza for a while,
Hmm.
and or like I play so another game just get to it that I've been playing is Mario Kart because they came out with the new map pack.
Hmm.
So Justine and I played that. And now we're kind of getting back into going through. We're just doing all of the CCs, all the Grand Prix and stuff um, together. But obviously, a totally different game from Forza.
Right.
So I like getting into Forza, kind of just like picking a race that's on the far side of the map, just so I can kind of get my bearings again. And I just drive to it. And it has this knack of new content comes out and it like puts you straight into like the intro for it
Mm.
as soon as you log on. And it's never like a high stakes. Like it's not a race. It's just you're like driving to a destination and they're giving you background on the story and all that. But
Uh-huh.
it's hard if you're not ready for it.
Yeah, I
So
gotcha.
they do that, which is cool because then it like gets you caught into the content and you're like, okay, I have something to do,
Hmm.
which is great. I imagine if you're caught up. For me, it's like, okay, this is cool. I'm gonna do this first race, get the intro to the story, but now I'm gonna go do something that was in like the main story, and I'm gonna completely forget all this.
Right. I hear you.
So it's at the end of the day, it's a racing game, and the story doesn't matter. um, Sometimes it helps you remember what order to do things in.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, trying to get through that game seems like fuel effort. Um, Luckily, you don't like need to beat Forza Horizon 5 to play Forza Motorsport,
Right.
but I I don't think I need 2 racing games from the same franchise at the same time.
Yeah, that sounds
So,
like that sounds like a nightmare of content that you would need to get through.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
assuming
so-
I'm assuming Motorsport's also going to have a pretty lively update cycle.
Yeah, it's interesting though because it's more like a static race.
Right.
It's my understanding based on past Forza Motorsport
Mhm.
games. So it's not going to be necessarily open world, is my understanding. But yeah, I'm sure there'll be like races popping up on your dashboard and
New
prompting
cars
you
to
to
try
do
and
that.
new cars to
Yeah.
try and win and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, they have like season events. So if you go do like specific races or events, you get points, and then if you get enough points, you unlock like special cars.
Right.
Um, so I'm sure they'll have that. But yeah, so that was that. And then my dark horse game for the week was Microsoft Flight Sim.
Oh, nice.
Don't know why. I was just like, I'm gonna go fly over my house for like the 8th time, and then crash land, and then move on to something else.
But did you at least land it like Denzel in Flight?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate to live in front of a lake, so I fly from the city that's south of me, and I start looping over my house. And then while I'm looping, I just keep going and flip myself over and then go back south and land upside down on the lake.
Oh, so you do like a combination of Flight and Sully.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, I don't, yeah, kind of. I forgot that flight, he lands,
He lands in like a
upside
field
down on ground, right?
in like a field, I think. Yeah.
And then Sully is in the Hudson Bay.
The hero of the Hudson.
Yeah. Yeah, so I land upside down in water, which saves the plane but drowns everything. The slides don't exactly work when they're upside down.
Yeah. Jesus.
Well, I mean, the slides work.
Yeah. That is man, new fear unlocked.
Yeah, man, that really should be a movie.
This is your pilot
And then-
speaking. I've got good news and bad news. The good news is we made a safe landing. The bad news is we're all about to drown.
The great news is there's snakes on this plane.
No.
Yeah, so you're upside down, sinking, stuck in your chair,
With a
and
boa
there's
constrictor.
snakes everywhere.
Jeez.
That sounds awful.
It does. It does.
So in that situation, I'm going to get off track here, but in that situation, you know you're going to die.
Yeah.
Would you rather be strangled by a boa constrictor or drown?
Man, both are situations where you're losing the ability to breathe, and so neither is going to be my answer. That's one of my like biggest fears is the like
You would survive.
Yeah. Yeah. My choice is I live. Didn't know that's how it works in a would you rather, but plot twist. Third option.
Nothing happens. You get out of the plane.
I
You swim home.
I rip the snake open. I use its lung as a breathing device.
What? Oh my god! What cartoon was that? Where they had like a snake and the person blows into it and it turns into a balloon.
Oh my god, that feels like a classic cartoon trope. Like that had to have happened in multiple things.
Yeah. So here you go. A snake attacks you. You blow into its mouth. Flotation device. You're good.
Yeah. That's how I would do it. Okay, so you had like a racing week, and then, well, you had a vehicle week, we'll say. Did some racing and some flying. Nice.
I mean, the flying one was kind of racing. Just a funny, quick story. They added glider planes,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah. So me being me, I didn't go in and like listen to any of the instructional stuff. I'm just like, I'll figure it out.
Sure.
I've only got like 100 different button combinations on this controller. Like it's a real plane. And couldn't figure out how to detach from the guiding plane. So I was just kind of getting towed around. So I just fucking nosedive and thinking it would just bring the plane down because I was bored and thought that'd be the fun option, and it just disconnected me. Um, but instead of having the cable hanging from the towing plane like it should have, it was hanging from my nose.
Oh no.
And it's like, press the rope detach button to detach the rope, the towing rope. And I'm like, where's, and it literally said like tow line detach or something like that on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, where is the tow line detach button on an Xbox controller? And it's one of those things where you had to like go into first person and like go through every single button on the panel to figure out which one did it.
Jesus.
So that was a mess. And then so I detached. I was good to go. I was cruising. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna try to land this thing. So I go in to land it, and textbook, wheels down, all good.
Mm-hmm.
Did not know how to brake. I did not see a brake button. And so I landed in like this farm runway because I have a lot of those around me, just a lot of private runways on people's farms. And Christine was watching. She's like, "Oh, good job on landing." I was like, "Yeah, I landed great. The bad news is we're still gonna die."
We are still going way too fast.
Yeah. So I was like, "The good news is there's a tree at the end of the runway, so we're not gonna go on forever."
There will be no civilian casualties outside of everybody in this plane.
And this tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So then
funny.
that happened, and I told Justine, I was like, "I'm still thinking about going and get my pilot's license."
Uh-oh. Oh, man. That's
That
very
is kind
funny.
of the cool thing about flight sim is I can fly pretty much the exact same like Cessna plane I'd be driving in a pilot's test
Mm-hmm.
from the airport that I would do it at. So it's if I were to ever go down that route, it'd be kind of cool. And it is like, I mean, you can put it in first person. You can use all the panels, all the like gauges and switches and stuff in the plane to fly it. You don't have to use like the button controls
Yeah.
on the controller. So it's like, oh, well, if I were to do this, um, certainly could.
It
Anyway,
is pretty neat. That's great. I love it. I love your I love any flight sim story that you have. It's always such an adventure. Uh
there's only so much taking it seriously that you can do when you're not an actual pilot.
100%. I completely get that. And so that's why it's always gold. Um cool. That's fun. Even though it was a small list, sounds like you still had quite the time.
Oh yeah.
Um real quick to give you an update on not really a bet, but a side quest on the GGBG universe. I did get 3 platinums this past week, so my total for the year
Wow.
is up to 41. Those 3 were the Crew 2. So I was doing some racing too. Cult of the Lamb, but the PS4 version of it. So I've now platinumed that twice. And then I finished up the Umbrella run of Death's Door. And a really funny story there is that, so with the Umbrella, the starting weapon is the sword. And let's just say the damage is 1 for the sword. The Umbrella is all the same stats as the sword, except damage is 0.5. And like throughout the game, you like get the option for other weapons. So you're always half of what your starting weapon is. So like that's just like a blanket statement to try and think about for any game where you would play and like have the ability to upgrade. You have to stay half as good as like just using the starting weapon the entire game. And you have the ability to upgrade your health and like your magic ability in terms of like capacity, You also can upgrade your damage and stuff through collecting souls, but you have to really go out of your way to increase your health to like 5 bars and then 6 bars, and then same with your magic to 5 magic uses and then 6. So I didn't do any of that, and I just like went into the final battle with 4 health and 4 magic. And the health is like you lose 1 health per hit basically. And this was on stream, and so Shelby was like sitting next to me, and I was dying to the final boss, 2 or 3 times, and I was just like, can you just like check? Is there like something that I'm like missing? And she like looked up and she was just like, I'm looking. She's like, yeah, there's really nothing. It just kind of says keep moving around. I was like, okay. So I end up beating it, and she goes, yeah, I didn't want to tell you, but literally the first part of the of the guide or whatever, the recommendation was make sure you have like your health fully upgraded and your magic fully upgraded. And she was like, and I at that point like I literally was at a checkpoint where it's like I can't go back and like do these things, like I'm in. And she was like, yeah, so I figured I shouldn't read that part out loud. And so like I did it, and did it with just the 4. And honestly, it made me, once again, it was like one of those moments where I was like, wow, maybe I'm not that bad at video games. um and it was just funny. But yeah, so those were the 3. Crew 2, Cult of the Lamb, Death's Door. I'm up to 41 now on the quest for 69. I also started playing Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I only put like maybe an hour into it. I think I'm on like the 3rd chapter or something like that. It's really good thus far. I'm enjoying it. I'm actually really excited to play through the rest of it. But yeah, other than that, oh, and Shelby and I played some Minecraft Dungeons, which is still very fun game. But yeah, that's it.
Very nice.
And I will say I was getting a little nervous about the 69 plats, but I really think I'm going to be able to do it.
So I should start figuring this trophy out.
Yeah, start doing your research and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
I've got options.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, this you can still you got plenty of time. All right. Let's get into the stories for the week. The first thing that I actually quickly wanted to call out before we even get into the main story is have you been hearing about Baldur's Gate 3?
I've been hearing about the nudity.
Yes. Okay. That has been a large portion of the stories being covered. But overall, the main thing I'm getting at is just the general success of the game, which has actually, I feel like, been pretty surprising. And I just wanted to say that it's very nice to see amidst all of the streamers and Call of Duty people who take online and bitch about gaming as a whole and say that like there's just no good games anymore because they live in a bubble of only playing multiplayer shooters. It's great to see that single player games can still have a strong impact on gaming as a whole. Think back to like Elden Ring. I get similar vibes from how Baldur's Gate 3 has blown up, and just wanted to give it like almost a quick little shout out and just say how happy I am.
Yeah, I assume probably not a game that's going to be in my wheelhouse. But yeah, unfortunately it's been mostly outshined by the nudity aspect of it. So I honestly haven't seen a whole lot about gameplay, but I have seen like I forget who it was. May have been Destin or something. And the people that are streaming this and are coming up on like nudity and acting like shocked on stream, like, oh, I'm gonna get demonetized and all this stuff. Apparently there is like something you have to check at the very beginning of the game if you even want to allow that as an option.
Oh, that's
that they
funny.
would have that there was like nothing, like it was something that came up on the screen. I don't know. I haven't played the game. It's just what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
So these people are basically just setting themselves up for content, which is hilarious. But yeah, other than that, it has been funny to see like Jez Corden was on a plane and he's like, I just got to the bear sex screen
Yeah.
on my Steam Deck in a very crowded plane.
Yep. Yeah. I'm sure we'll keep getting stories like that. But yeah, I mean it's like a super in-depth RPG, you know, and so it already lends itself to not being for everyone, and it seems like people are really like taking it and running with it and having a lot of fun with it. I saw like you can give your character the ability to like talk to animals, so a couple of different people have like posted the video of their character like coming across this like squirrel, and the squirrel like attacks you and is like yelling at you, and like they like kick them off, and like one person I couldn't quite see because I was like watching on my phone and like the text was super small, but they chose some sort of option, and then like it did the dice roll because it's effectively you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, and it did like a dice roll for like a skill check. And he passed the skill check, and his character then just ran up and fucking like kicked the squirrel into a tree, and fucking killed it, and was just like, no shit, I didn't mean to do that. It was really funny. So like it feels like it just feels like one of those games where it's like you can play it and have just a wildly different experience from somebody else who plays it. And I think that's like the promise that like Cyberpunk tried to give, and plenty of other games before it, that I feel like personally have somewhat fallen flat in that promise. I'm super interested if Starfield's gonna, you know, capitalize on that. But yeah, that's also been really fun to see. It's just great. It's just great, I think, for gaming. Um,
There's been some strong feelings that it might come to Game Pass. Because I think just like last week or something like that, they put Baldur's Gate 1 in.
Now to get into the real stories that we were planning. Didn't say it at the top, but there's a rumor going around about an Xbox digital only console, and curious what your thoughts are on this rumor in general, and what your thoughts are on if we were to get a digital only Xbox.
Who is this from? This was Insider Gaming. Tom
Yeah,
Henderson.
good old
Yeah, so
Tommy
it's gonna
H.
it's gonna happen.
Yeah, so we know it's real.
Yeah.
uh,
Sorry, I need a second.
yeah, I know you're good. Oh
Yeah,
man.
so we know it's gonna happen. And I if I didn't already have an Xbox, I would probably buy it.
Yeah.
So it's a digital only Series X is the rumor.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and frankly, if it were out at launch, I would have gotten that version over the one I got. Um, Seldom have I put a disc in that system.
Mm-hmm.
I would say so. I got Cyberpunk on disc because Best Buy was selling it for like $10
Right.
before it got upgraded to the like Series X version.
Right.
So,
And then you had the whole like capability of putting in like the Xbox One version of it and having it play up. Right.
right.
Yeah.
Um, so I have that, and then like I have a decent catalog of um, physical disc Xbox One games, but most of them are now on Game Pass,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of a conundrum because, um, so let's, for example, Forza Motorsport 6 is one of those games. I have it on disc for my Xbox One. I put it in my Series X to play it, and then it came to Game Pass. And without needing to do anything, I no longer need to put that disc in to play it
Right.
because discs are essentially just licenses.
Mm-hmm.
So there's really no reason that I would need it. And if there was, kind of like I think the story we're going to talk about later, um, it's the version I would have gotten if it were like $50 cheaper or whatever.
Yep.
Was it $100 with the PlayStation, if you got the
Yes.
digital, yeah, that would have been a no-brainer for me.
Yeah.
With Game Pass and the catalog, I mean, we so seldom put discs in that console anymore.
Yeah. I I hear you. I feel the same way. Like I somewhat kick myself over the PS5 choice I made, and it's mostly because it's gonna take a while for the games that I want to play to come to like PlayStation Plus. Like it's, you know what I mean? Like the Sony first
Mhm.
party games are the ones that I'm gonna want to play, you know, quote unquote immediately. And so like I still do like physical, like having the physical disc, mostly for no other reason than at the very least just because of like this whole display thing that I've got going on. And I actually have a pretty good catalog of like PS4 games that would be great to be able to just put in my PS5 and be able to play them rather than needing to like go back to my PS4. So that is like the one thing
Yeah.
that like kind of sucks. But I do feel the same way though, because I know that if I do get an Xbox, it 100% for me is going to be um, a Game Pass machine. So yeah, knowing that like potentially you would imagine it's going to mimic the PS pricing. So like you're probably looking at it being $400 instead of $500. I agree. It does feel like a no brainer. Um, and I think
And
like
especially for you because you've got no skin in the game.
exactly. Yeah. And I think like I think in general giving people the option is like good, you know? Like there are plenty of people who do not care about physical media anymore. And
Mhm.
if that's the case, then like it means a lot to be able to save $100, right? I mean, that's you're looking at basically two games, or in the case of Xbox, it's almost a year of Game Pass, not a year of Game Pass Ultimate, but still. Um you get what I'm saying. So like yeah, it's not insignificant, and it'll most likely be the version that I end up getting once I do. So it's kind of perfect timing for me.
Yeah. And then the other thing too is there are other people in the world who aren't hoarders like you and I and don't have every generation of every console. So like backwards compatibility isn't a huge issue for me because I have all of the consoles I could go back and play them on.
hmm
Um, but and there are other people who just don't care about that at all. So
Right.
I think it's a smart move, especially as they're trying to get more people into like the recurring revenue model that is Game Pass.
Yep.
And yeah, it'll be interesting to see. You know, it's almost one of those things where if it is cheap enough, you know, I could trade in my One X and get one of those.
Right.
Um, you know, not that I have a whole reason to do that. I mean, our One X is basically like I have some old like Xbox Live Gold games on there. Um, some of my other like disc based games. Not that it's much of an issue anymore because Microsoft does such a good job of transferring save data,
hmm
but it's really not playing any games, but we use it for media, movies, and TVs and stuff in a different room.
Right.
Um, yeah, I almost kind of wonder if this is like if this is coming out now and they reallocated all of the resources from Keystone, which was their streaming only
hmm
service, into building this, which probably a good move.
Yeah. The only downfall is that it just says within the next couple of years. So that timeline is potentially unfortunate for me, but it also, if I'm just patient and willing to be, it'll actually be pretty perfect. So, yeah, overall, like the move. Uh,
Yeah, I'm curious if it's really going to take that long to get this thing out there. Like, I could see this almost getting shadow dropped within the next year. I don't think it'll be by like holiday of this year. Obviously, we would have had some more certain rumors by now, but
right. And yeah, if it is 2024, like that does align pretty perfectly for me. So yeah, we'll see. But exciting stuff nonetheless.
Yeah.
So then the other thing that I wanted to talk about before we get into kind of the big story is there's a Pokemon Presents yesterday on August 8th. We're recording this on August 9th. And you didn't have the opportunity to like actually sit and watch the whole thing, right?
No, I did not.
Which is totally fine because as is normally the case with the Pokemon Presents, you really don't miss anything except for normally the last thing that's announced. I will say, to just give you a quick recap, something cool is the Pokemon trading card game from the Game Boy Color is going to be on the Game Boy Online part of Switch Online service.
I did see that, and I was pretty
And
stoked about that because I know we had it when I was younger, but I don't think I ever played it. I don't think I could pry it out of my brother's hands.
oh, it's such a good game. I like have such fond memories of it. And then Stadium 2 was announced as a part of the like expansion plus for 64 that's going to be on there. And so that's cool. I mean, they have such a backlog of stuff that they can like put on these like online services that Nintendo started doing, which I think has been a really smart move. And so that's cool. That's a cool positive. Other than that, it was like a lot of updates, as is normally the case for like Pokemon Unite, Pokemon Cafe, Pokemon Sleep is out there now, so something about that. Pokemon Go. I'm forgetting other mobile and smaller games. But really, I think there was some feeling, especially from your brother, my brother. I had the opportunity. Chris posted it on Twitter. I was talking to my brother a little bit before and during the presents. But there was definitely feeling from both of them of them announcing a new game, which didn't happen. Basically, the big story was the DLC that's going to be coming for Scarlet and Violet, and they showed off like generally like what you're going to be doing in each of the expansions and some of the new Pokemon that you're going to get to see, stuff like that. And I think the first expansion is set for September. I forget the exact date. Apologies. But set for September, and then the second one doesn't have a set date yet, but it's just winter of this year. It'll release. So my guess is it'll be December, but we'll see. Well, I guess that is technically winter doesn't start until December 21st. So, but anyway, that's just rough guess. My main question is, and what I kind of want to talk about is, how do you find it trying to go back to a game that releases DLC almost a year after the main game comes out? And do you think this is actually an overall negative for games and for like the industry as a whole, instead of just like baking that content or as much of it into the game, and whatever doesn't make it, you just push those resources into whatever's coming next, rather than doing these elongated releases and having to try and fight for people's attention to come back to a game that they've probably now put down for the past 6 months at the very least.
Yeah, I don't think it's really a one-way answer, unfortunately. I think one, it depends on the game.
Mm-hmm.
But we've also seen we've seen the data on this, I think, and I think we probably talked about it in a previous episode, where people do not come back to games if they launch DLC in the same capacity that they do at launch. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
your day one users are not going to all return for content. In terms of if I think it's good for the industry, again, depends on the game. So, like a Pokemon game, for example, and this is an incredibly biased answer because I don't really play them. But I'm at least familiar with them. I used to play them. I understand the sentimental value behind those games. I would want. How long has it been? This is for. What was the last game that came out?
This is,
Scarlet and Violet.
yeah, this is for Scarlet and Violet. Those came out in, I think, November.
Okay, so we're looking at a year. I think that is far too long.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make any sense to me. Because I mean, when was the last time you played Scarlet?
I mean, probably like January.
Yeah, and like I just feel like you're so detached from the game. And I'm not to put words in your mouth. That's a general you. Like you get so detached from the game, and to come back, like I feel like it's hard for most people. It's at least hard for me to jump back into a game without getting some of the backstory again from the game I already played.
Yeah.
Just getting a reminder, kind of getting back into what has happened and where does this new content take place in that time.
Mm-hmm.
So for a game like Pokemon, I don't disagree with them releasing paid content within like 6 months. I think that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for a game like Pokemon. Now, let's take Mario Kart for example. I kind of really like this staged rollout of new
Mm-hmm.
content. Because I mean, it's not like you play Mario Kart, you beat the Grand Prix or whatever, you get as far as you can in the Grand Prix, and then you put it down for a bit. New content's out, it brings you back in. You maybe go back and play some more races and get back into it, do some more multiplayer or whatever. That makes a ton of sense to me. I think that's a great model.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but also, you're not like that's just in the whatever the Nintendo Online platform. It's not like you're paying for that content over time.
Right.
I think it makes sense in a subscription model like that to do it that way. So I don't know. Um, I don't think I necessarily agree with pushing it on to the next game. Because who knows how long it's going to be. If it's something like Call of Duty, okay, you're getting an annual or every 2 year release anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, maybe you can push some of that stuff onto the next game, but also people are going to pay for that
Right.
in that demographic.
Yeah. I think you kind of nailed it. It really comes down to like the timing because especially with Pokemon, I feel like they just don't do enough. I mean, the Pokemon games used to have amazing post-game content that would take you like an additional like it would like double your playtime. It felt like sometimes because there's just so much to do. And it really feels like these past couple of games have been lacking that because the DLC is supposed to be that thing. And I think the DLC is a little more fleshed out than typical post game content. But there's just not enough to, I feel like, keep you playing the game. They tried to give you, like, I forget what the raids are specifically called anymore because it's been so long. But I know they were doing, like, special raid events and stuff like that. And for a while there, I was still close enough to the game that it was like, yeah, I'll try and, like, go back and get this thing. And, like, I'm going to be committed to this. And literally after 2 of those events, I stopped playing it. And just, like, didn't have the ability because something else had grabbed my attention at that point. I think it's just such an interesting, I guess, choice with like the types of games that I'm specifically focused on, being like typical story games. Like Horizon had uh, a DLC. I was very excited about Horizon, loved the game, told myself I was going to play the DLC. I haven't gotten it and don't know if I will. Saints Row just had its like third expansion put out, but it took so long for the first one to even come out that like I even have the season pass for that because in the past I've always like wanted the season pass for the Saints Row games, but I was so cheap that I never got it. That like I made the decision that like yeah, this time I'm going to play all the content, but like I got through the game when I did, and I really didn't rush through that game. I like kept going back to it. Yet still too much time has passed. That's like it feels like it's going to be a chore to go back and actually play and enjoy the DLC. So yeah, I just feel like games don't take the care to like keep you invested in the game long enough to make it to that first DLC. Um, and I just think it's interesting to just like have that be the decision. And I'm curious, how other people feel about this, and do they find it easy to go back and stuff like that? Because um, with like a Call of Duty or with Mario Kart, right? Like Mario Kart doesn't have a story really, like you just race, and so it's easy to be like, oh, there's new content, there's new races to do. It's easy to just jump right back into it. Um, Whereas like some of these other games, I feel like it's just way, way too hard.
Yeah, and it's so hard now, just with like the hype cycle behind games.
Right.
You know, when did they say when this Pokemon content is coming out?
Uh, the first DLC is September.
Okay, so maybe that's good timing there. So I was gonna say if they're coming out with it, like if they just shadow dropped it, like everyone's talking about Baldur's Gate right now,
Right.
and I don't. This is a hot take, I think, but I don't think the newer Pokemon games are good games.
Gasp.
But they have just grabbed a hold of the nostalgia and uh, they build the games up and get people super excited for it. Like it feels like an event when a Pokemon game comes out.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, are they really that good? Like once you get past the hype, I mean, the fact that people aren't coming back for DLC or there's no like hype behind the DLC, and just that I don't know. I mean, you kind of said that the games have felt somewhat empty in previous years.
Yeah, they just don't feel like they have like the post game like Sword and Shield and now Scarlet and Violet just don't feel like they have like the okay, you just beat the champion and now you have all this other story and stuff to explore. It just didn't feel like as much as like all the handhelds had. Um and yeah, I just think like could you just like instead of putting the resources into the DLC, could you put the time and resources into just putting some of that into more of the game and just making the game overall a better experience? Because like I'm just curious like what the payoff is in terms of how much resource and time you're putting into these DLCs and like how many people actually end up going back to them.
Right.
And would it be more worth it to just have some of that in the game up front and then whatever time and everything that you put into another DLC or something like that, instead you take that time and effort and just start building the next game and figuring out how to innovate and make it better. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's my question basically. And
but
yeah.
and maybe it shows their cards. You know, maybe they're not interested in making the games better, and they're just gonna. I mean, this is kind of what it seems like they did with Scarlet and Violet. You know, they took what came out and what was it? X and Y that kind of had this first like in air quotes open world
Sword and Shield
Sword and Shield.
had the wild area that was like yeah, like it felt open world and then like you were back in like cities and stuff like that.
Okay.
And Scarlet Violet is like true open world.
Yeah, so you can tell they took resources from that, and then they took resources from
Legends.
Arceus.
Yep.
Yeah, and uh, I guess they know they don't need to innovate, so they're like, okay, well the next game's already built, we'll reskin it, we'll make it. How long is it going to be until there's an entirely new generation? I imagine they're just going to keep remaking games
Mm-hmm.
for the next couple and do another Legends game maybe. And I don't. I think they know they don't need to innovate, so they're like, hey, let's put a content pack out.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And it's Pokemon and like you said, it's always just such an event, but like I guess you know, maybe it's tough because you and I aren't like the Pokemon freaks that we used to be or anything like that. Like I still play them all. I know you've fallen off. but like I still play them all and still enjoy them. But I felt like I got burned out with Scarlet Violet. Chris and Jess, who obviously like Pokemon is their brand, right? Like they're all things Pokemon. And I remember Chris said he was getting burned out with Scarlet Violet. Jess was saying that she was going back to Legends, and like the more I get removed from Legends, the more I realize because it was such a different Pokemon experience, how much I actually enjoyed it. I think more like the more time away from it, the more I'm thinking like this is my favorite Pokemon game, and it's not like you know Pokemon, right? Like it's its own thing. Um, I don't know.
I mean, to use Justine as a case study here, she loved Arceus.
Mm-hmm.
She
Yeah, because it
played,
was different.
yeah, and that was the first Pokemon game that I think that she's ever played. It's definitely the first one she's ever beat. And then Scarlet and Violet came out, and we were talking about it, and I was like, I'm not going to play this game, but we can get it if you think
Mm-hmm.
you will. And she looked at it, and I kind of explained what regular Pokemon games were, and she just wasn't interested.
Yeah.
She likes and it's funny because, again, not to kind of put words in their mouth, but Chris and Jess, but I think primarily Jess, are so into like shiny hunting
Mm-hmm.
and collecting, and I feel like that just kind of goes back to the root of Pokemon, like you said. After you beat the game, you beat the Pokemon League, you could go back for hours just to find other Pokemon.
Mm-hmm. And like trying to fill out the Pokedex, which like in the games that have since been on the Switch, like the Pokedex isn't the full thing. And like I get it, there's now over 1,000 Pokemon, and so that's a lot. But like that was like some of the fun was like trying to like Sun and Moon were the last ones on 3DS, and then there was 850 or something like that at that point. My numbers might be off a little bit, but like we have not had more than I think 400 in any of the like console ones. So like you can get through the decks like in no time, and I don't know. It's just it sucks. And then like the extended decks gets like locked behind these DLCs. So like if you want to be able to like try and catch like new Pokemon for the game, you have to pay money to have access to them.
And
And
that I don't think I like. That kind of takes away the soul of Pokemon, in my
right.
opinion.
But I was just curious what your thoughts were on, this like delayed release of DLC and kind of
Well, I mean, let's put it into the perspective of a different game, a game that I know I deeply care about and enjoyed. Uh, with Cyberpunk, and I know it's hard just because of how tumultuous that release was.
mm-hmm,
So obviously, new content was going to take a while from initial release because they basically had to rebuild the base game. Um, I cannot wait for Phantom Liberty.
yeah.
Uh, and it's been at least a year now, right? Probably it's been 2 years since Cyberpunk's release.
Um yes, I think so. Or
Yeah,
it's gonna
because I
be
was
it's gonna be 2 in like December because it came out, right? It came out in 2021, December
I
2021.
I got it in August September time frame when I was still living in Pennsylvania. So that would have been at least 2021. So it must have come out December of 2020. Does that make
Maybe
sense?
because it did come out on last gen.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it was 2020.
Let's see. December 10, 2020, initial release.
Crazy. Crazy. So we're
So
coming up
now
on
we're
3 years.
right. Right. So, and again, different example because they basically had to re-release the game. The way I'm seeing it is the updated content I think came out in like November of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give them a little bit of grace and say November 2021 when the game came out. That's at least when I started playing it like full time.
Right.
Um, and that like story to me was just so memorable. And like I still go back to that game just to mess around in the open world, do missions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just love being in that universe. So going back into that game for me, I think is going to be so easy, and it's just an entirely different story. Uh, so like that's an example where it's been call it a year and a half since that game came out, and I'm glad they're making content for it.
Yeah.
Um, Again, different developer though. It's not like CD Projekt Red is cranking out games every 1 to 2 years.
Right. Yeah,
So
and I don't know if that's also part of it, right? Because like this, we know that the scale of this expansion is going to just be absolutely massive, where it almost is going to be its own game.
right,
So that also, I think, somewhat plays into it. But I don't know. It's just it's something that like constantly is always present in mind, and maybe it's just like maybe it's a me problem because I'm able to just jump from game to game like nothing. But I kind of wanted to hear what your perspective was on it, and you know, to anybody listening, if you want to let us know what you think, because you know, maybe it really is just less of an issue than I think it is to the general gaming public.
yeah, this is something I'd really like to hear the dialogue on to see where people are at.
Yeah. Um. But cool. All right. The last thing, um, as we are starting to go a little long here, but the probably the biggest story from this past week was that um, Red Dead Redemption is coming to Switch and PS4. And you're probably thinking Red Dead Redemption's already on PS4. No, it's not. That's Red Dead Redemption 2, you silly. So the first game of the Red Dead Redemption series, but not the first game of the overall series, because technically Red Dead Revolver was the first game, is getting ported to PS4 and Switch, and that's the important thing. So it had been floated around that people thought a remaster or a remake was potentially coming, and it was announced that it is simply a port of the game. It'll be coming with Undead Nightmare, and it will be $50. And
Shoot,
what's that?
I said shoot.
Yeah. And um there's a lot to there's a lot to unpack here. Um
I just want to say, 4 hours ago, I don't know. It came up on Yahoo News. I don't know who initially reported, but the Take Two CEO, the people who own,
mhm.
said that $50 is a great value. So
So
keep that in mind as well as we talk through this.
yeah. So I think what really rubs me the wrong way is that nothing is changing about this game. It is simply a port. It'll be it should run better. Is like
It's at least 4K 30 frames. I think that is the spec.
right, but it's not actually like the graphics aren't going to actually like improve. It's literally like the GTA definitive editions that were released for 3 San Andreas and Vice City, where the graphics are very much PS2 graphics. It just looks like cleaner almost, which is sometimes kind of a bad thing because it tries to smooth out things that I forget what it was, but there was like a whole joke store that these games always have where it was like stick it in ya or something like that. But then like because it got like smoothed out, it was just called like stock or something. And like you just like completely miss out on the joke or whatever. I don't remember exactly what it was, but yeah, so that's the one thing that kind of bothers me is that really nothing is truly like being, it's not even really getting like a fresh coat of paint at the very least. And to charge $50 for it is, pardon my French, fucking insane. And the best part of all of it is that I didn't mince my words when I said it is releasing for PS4 and Switch, because you don't need to worry about it for Xbox, because you can just play Red Dead Redemption on your Xbox Series console, and you still have access to online, as Gene Park so pleasantly pointed out. And there are still people on the servers playing. It's still populated to some degree, and that is just crazy. That is crazy. So, round of applause to Xbox, just once again showing its value without needing to rub your nose in it, because everybody else is doing it for them. And two, just like, what a fumble, in my opinion, from Rockstar to just miss an opportunity to, because if it's one thing to be like, oh, people who didn't have the opportunity to experience it now will have the opportunity on current on current hardware. Love it. Amazing. I am so here for it. As if you've played Red Dead Redemption before, you don't need to pick this up, and I agree. That's fine. But to charge $50 for it, a game that is how old? Like, you can just turn around and go back and, it's almost cheaper to just buy a PS3 and fucking buy it on there.
Right.
And you would actually get more value out of doing that. It's just crazy to me.
It's hard for me. So I just to do this in reverse chronological order with the points that you brought up. Like, yes, it's great that you can play it on current generation consoles, but in my opinion, the game played like fucking shit on PS3. And so I started Red Dead Redemption obviously late. Like, I think GTA 5 had already been out. I was already used to those controls and how smooth that game played. I played Red Dead Redemption on a PS3 and had to stop. I mean, the controls were so bad. It was just like the classic, like it's GTA 4. And I know people love GTA 4. I don't understand how people can play it because it is so. It's just so. It did not age well.
Mm-hmm.
So to like say that you're bringing this to people in the current generation, it's like, no, you're not. This is still a PS3 game.
Exactly.
And I don't think people are going to understand that. Like, yes, it's 30 frames. Okay, that's not really an improvement. 4K. It kind of needs to be, or else it's going to be blown out,
Right.
if it's still the same pixel resolution. So that's not really a feature. That's just a saving grace. And yeah, just $50 for that. I understand it comes with Undead Nightmare, which people loved. Okay, whatever.
Okay. Hear me out, though. Hear me out. The 3 definitive GTAs bundled together released for, I think combined they're $60. So for a base game and a DLC, $30? Okay. I can maybe get on board with that. Still probably an overpay, but like, I can see the thought process and say like, all right. And like, and for $20 a game for the GTA games, I only played Vice City because it was on the PS Plus collection, but I actually did have a lot of fun with it. And like, I did really enjoy it. And I was like, wow, I'm glad I got the chance to like experience this and play this game. And, since I bought a PS2 and now I just have it physically. But like, there I saw the value in it. I saw like, I'm somebody who never had the opportunity to experience Vice City, and for $20 I got to play it on my new console. I'll take that. That's not terrible value.
And those were to some degree upgraded though, because like you said, the graphics were smoothed out, but the control scheme
was better.
Was changed to what was in GTA 5.
Yes, I believe that is correct. Yep.
So they were like, I started playing I can't remember if it was 3 or San Andreas, whichever one came to Game Pass. I think only one came to Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
And it was playable. Like I put a couple hours into it. But it doesn't seem like that's what they're doing with Red Dead. It's going to be the same awful mid 2000s Rockstar control scheme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a hard sell. Then
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, and just to go on to the Xbox side of it, it's so funny because I saw this news break and I was like, PS4 and Switch. It's an awful, strange combination.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, one, no PS5, but I guess you can, like, if you buy it, which I imagine you'd have to do on the digital store, you'd be able to play it on your PS5, right?
Yep.
Okay. So while they didn't say PS5, I guess it was just kind of insinuated. And I was like, weird that there's no Xbox on here. And I really did not think about it that hard. And I was like, I must have just had some sort of deal with PlayStation and Nintendo, like I think they did with the GTA um, collection for PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was like an early release by like a month or something, or at least just a branding thing. I don't remember. I thought there was something strange there. But I was like, weird that there's no Xbox. And then I texted you. I think I just said I was so stupid
Mm-hmm.
because you can, if you have Red Dead Redemption and an Xbox Series X, you can take your Red Dead Redemption 360 disc and just put it in your Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
And it is upscaled.
Mm-hmm.
It's upscaled to 4K. I think it's still only 30 frames, so a lot of people are arguing you can get 60. But I think everyone's pretty, the actual experts in the field are pretty certain it's 30, which makes sense. Obviously, you don't get an updated control scheme, but you're not getting that in this port either.
Mm-mm.
So, and you can get, I think I saw somebody like, you can go into GameStop and get Red Dead Redemption with Undead Nightmare for like $24
Right.
on 360.
And if you wanted to buy it on 360, if you just wanted to buy it on the Xbox store, it's $30.
Yeah.
And I think that's just for just the game. But again, like, which is crazy. I can't believe that that game still is valued at that, like being as old as it is and stuff like that. But like, whatever. That's way better value than the fucking schmucks who are going to pay $50 to be able to say they experienced this game finally.
Yeah.
It's such a fumble. It's such a fumble. In the age of like what's old is new again, and remakes and remasters and stuff like that, and just like you have such a great opportunity with an old game that people have been craving to just to do this is like insane. And then like I think about like Metroid Prime remastered, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was what, $40?
Yeah.
And that is like, oh my god, right? Like people are saying it's basically a remake.
They undersold it.
So like, come on, like to do this, and then now you're telling me that the head of Take Two is saying like $50 is a good value. Take my $50 and shove it up your ass. Like that's such a slap to the face to the consumer. And it's just so frustrating. It's just so frustrating.
It's really unfortunate because, like I said, I never got through Red Dead because I could not do the controls. It was unplayable to me. Obviously, that's my personal opinion. If they were to have completely remade this game for current gen, and like it doesn't need to be perfect, it doesn't need to, like, even just to the GTA level,
Mm-hmm.
like make the graphics look a little bit better, make the control scheme modern. I probably would have picked it up. And I at least wouldn't have immediately scoffed at the $50 price. Would I have purchased it at that price? Probably not.
Right.
But I think it would be way more reasonable than it is currently. Like I said, the market. Oh, let's say the Xbox store. Let's say $30 is the market. It should be $30,
Mm-hmm. 100%.
unless, to put our tinfoil caps on, Xbox is in cahoots with Take Two and Rockstar. And they said, "Hey, port this over to PlayStation and Switch." So then everyone is going to be talking about how great Xbox is.
Right.
Not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah. I'm waiting for the news to drop that Xbox has acquired Take Two any day now.
Yeah, or at least like acquired Rockstar from Take Two.
Oh man. It's it's crazy. And really just kind of like you want to talk about a company showing their cards. Like, I feel like Rockstar has done a really good job of doing that here of late. Um, Basically since GTA 5 of like, I mean, we haven't gotten a new GTA game. It's been over 10 years. Like, that's well over the longest um time frame of any, I believe, GTA release. And like, I get it, it's going to be an amazing game, and like, you know, it's going to break so many freaking records and it's going to be insane, but like, they very clearly said we're going to milk GTA Online for all it's worth, and then to turn around and say like, "Oh, do you remember those 3 games on PS2 that people love and really set up GTA to like become what it is now?" Well, guess what? You're going to have the opportunity to play those again. And that should be an amazing thing, but we did no work to actually improve much of anything about them. And oh, Red Dead Redemption 2, we stopped caring about it. We didn't give it the online life that we gave to GTA. We just instead went back and kept doing GTA. Oh, you're clamoring for a Red Dead Redemption remake or remaster? Yeah, we could do that. Here, we're going to give you Red Dead Redemption again. Oh, but once again, we didn't really do anything. It's still just the same game you played, you know, 10, 15, however long ago now at this point. It's just, it's so obviously just all they care about is a quick cash grab. It's going to work to some degree, which is frustrating, and they're not going to change.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because I've been seeing some commentary too about Rockstar. And just like for so long, all they did was put out high quality games.
Hmm?
And now they're just trying to follow the trend of just putting shit out. And
And
I guess they just have a lot of confidence in GTA 6 and that they can do all this stuff and people are going to have a short memory. And
well, I was gonna say, and like again, like, you know, like, I still have all the faith in the world that GTA 6 is going to be amazing, because Red
I
Dead
agree.
Redemption 2 was amazing and GTA 5 was amazing, and like the actual games that, you know, they're putting the time and care into are great. But for them to be like, here's a crumb, and for the crumb to literally be a piece of shit is just so frustrating. It's just like, I would rather you did nothing. I would rather you gave me nothing than to say, "Oh, you want something? I'm going to give you something," and give me something that I just do not want at all. Like, come on.
can you? So on your, or even on the PS4, I guess I could check. Can you not buy Red Dead Redemption on the PlayStation Store?
Let me check. I mean, you can for PS3, right? That's the
Yeah. So
problem
I
though.
guess
You can't
I
you
guess
can't
PS4
play.
can. Yeah. Which is funny because again, that's all Sony's doing. Like that's all that they are the reason that this even needs to be a port because
I'm
they were using cell processors and then they moved to AMD with the PS4. So like that's why there's no back compat with PS3 and PS4. So if that never happened, this would probably never be happening. It might come to Switch, I guess. But
yeah, it's just, man, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I really hope it flops as hard as possible to hopefully make them realize, but you just know that they're not really putting that much resource into it. And like, I mean, it's just going to be anything, it's just going to be sheer profit. So it just doesn't matter at the end of the day, and they're going to just keep doing it.
yeah,
It sucks. You know, for how long did people want like a second game for Bully, right? Like, people wanted Bully 2, and there were all those rumors about it, and it's gonna happen, it's not gonna happen, it's gonna happen, it's not gonna happen. Um, and you know, they're gonna do some sort of Rockstar Presents, and they're gonna tease Bully, and people are gonna lose their fucking minds. And then 2 weeks later, they're gonna go, "That's right, we're porting Bully to the new consoles, and it's gonna play and look exactly the same." But technically, I guess those are already on because they're PS2 games, so PS2 can play on. It's a whole thing. It's so dumb.
yeah.
But that's all I have on it. Do you have anything else? Any gripes that you'd like to air?
No, not that's worth
All
hearing.
right. Well, dear listener, let us know your thoughts on everything we've talked about today. Let us know your thoughts on Red Dead Redemption. Let us know your thoughts on DLCs and the delay that they have for games. Are they a deal breaker? Are they not? Is $50 for a PS3 era game worth it to you? Let us know. And that'll do it. Ran a bit long on this one, but thank you so much for listening. As always, if you can leave us a rating or a review wherever you do listen, be greatly appreciated. Again, we do have a YouTube channel that if you want to drop us a comment, you can drop it there. I will do my best to try and respond to you if you do. And other than that, best thing you can do for us is share this with a friend. It'd be greatly appreciated. And we'll talk to you next week.